Hello and welcome. So, we are going to be talking about our microbiome. Such an important topic. And here's the thing about our digestive center, and this is where I really love Chinese medicine, is that each organ in our entire body, but today we'll be talking about our digestive organs, has a much broader scope of function than in Western medicine. So, for example, our spleen in our stomach is considered the earth element. It's in our digestive center, the right above our belly button and below our sternum. That whole area is digestive function. And in Chinese medicine, that system is responsible for to receive everything we take in, all the food and all the liquids, everything we ingest. It's responsible for breaking all that down, transforming it into nourishment, and then transporting it by way of our bloodstream to our entire body, all of our organs, our brain, all of our major organ systems, in order for them to be nourished and continue to have optimal function. So it's kind of a big job. And I think they say that when we have a normal sized meal, 65% of our energy is going to digestion. That's a lot. That's well over half. So, we have to give a lot of credence. That's why they say don't swim for an hour after eating a meal, because we need our limbs to function. We need, if all of our energy or a lot of our energy is in this digestive business, then, we just need to wait until that's more complete. So we have, in case we need to save our life in the water. So one of the ways I like to think about this is that, like, if we have this much digestive energy, or qi, it's called in Chinese medicine, but we eat foods that require this much digestive energy to break down, then there's going to be this relative excess left over of food that is not broken down. And that's okay every once in a while, but when that happens meal after meal, either we eat foods that are processed or for our body to break down, or we eat too much, right? We just don't have that much digestive energy to break down the amount of food that we're eating in one given sitting. Then it's going to accumulate. And I see this in my mind's eye as like a toxic cesspool off to the side, where all this excess just gets shoved. And the body's infinite wisdom, it's like, well, we have to put it somewhere. It's like our dumps that we have. We take all of our stuff that we don't want to the dump, and it just kind of piles up over time, and hopefully breaks down. Not in all cases, as you know, but I'm getting off track there. So, and then the body tries to distribute that excess. And this is where the body, if you can't understand why you have like postnasal drip or, sinus stuff, in Chinese medicine, one of the ways that excess gets redistributed is by way of dampness or phlegm. And that can happen throughout our respiratory system. So I notice that when I overeat for too many days in a row, I'll get more phlegm in my nose. So it's a weird thing to consider, but it's one of the barometers that we have to understand if we know about it. So, and this digestive system, because it works so hard all the time, 24/7, sweatshop type stuff, it needs a break from all that work. So it's one of the reasons there's wisdom in giving our body 12 or even 14 or 16 hours of just a downtime, so that it can rest and regenerate, recuperate, that kind of thing, and have breaks in between meals. I am not a fan of constant grazing just for that purpose of giving our digestive system a break. It depends on a lot of factors and variables in your own system, but in general, the body likes to have a break between meals from having to work. It makes sense, right? And then one of the other things that's really hard on this system is sugar and processed foods and too many carbs. If you think about like things like ice cream and cake and cookies, all of those things have like these three things: sugar, processed, and too many carbs, and fat, right? Like the combination of those things is like the holy grail of not being able to say no after a certain point, right? Like some people can eat just a small bite or a little nibble of a cookie. I'm not one of those people, and I don't know a lot of those people. Most of us, because those three things together, sugar, fat, and carbohydrates. So like in a cookie, we have butter, and we have the carbs as wheat, and then the sugar is a given, whether it's chocolate chips or whatever. But anyway, those three things in combination are really difficult for us to sort of say no to, because our body wasn't designed to have those three things in combination. So let's just switch over to the microbiome part. We need a healthy microbiome for the following reasons. I'm going to give you 7 reasons why we need a healthy microbiome. 1, protection against pathogens. Pathogens are things like bacteria, virus, fungus, the things that are floating in the air that our body is constantly on the lookout for. And so we need a front line of defense for pathogens. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. 2, we need the microbiome because it synthesizes, it breaks down and creates combinations in vitamins for our body to have optimal function. 3, our microbiome is vital for immune system development. 4, the microbiome helps to promote new blood vessels in our intestines, which is important because it's through our blood, our blood passages, if you will, our blood channels that nutrients are sent from the food we eat after it's all broken down. It goes by way of our blood into our entire body for nourishment. 5, a healthy microbiome helps to modulate fat storage. Kind of a big deal. It helps to modulate our nervous system. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And the 7th reason we need a healthy microbiome is because we need that biome to ferment our dietary fiber by way of small chain fatty acids in order to help regulate metabolism, right? So I'm going to just, as a heads up, the next few shows are going to be devoted to healthy digestion. And today, of course, we're starting with probiotics and microbiome and digestive enzymes and what they mean to your healthier digestion. So a warm hello to you listening live and on the replay. Thank you so much for joining in. Grab your cup of tea if you like. And in our time together, I invite you to join the conversation, ask any questions, comments, go ahead and toss out any reactions or emojis, just helping in a virtual, because we're in a virtual space, it helps to, make us feel like we're having a real conversation and that we're connected. So also, I'm going to be talking about the 3 best and the 3 worst things that you can do for your microbiome. And I have those as show notes. If you would like a copy, the code word in the comments to type is biome, BIOME. And we'll message you and get those show notes to you. So if we have not yet met, I am Laurie Morse, a 30-year practitioner of Chinese medicine and director of the Sacred Health Academy, where we teach spirit-centered women who may be struggling with fatigue, pain, and stress, how to awaken her birthright of sacred health. And yes, that is a real thing, so that she can live with more energy, ease in her body, peace, and purpose. A pretty good definition of wholeness, wouldn't you say? So the microbiome is the genetic material of all the microbes. So that could be bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and virus. And this is a symbiotic microbial thing. It's like a whole terrain of microbes, if you will, that have a symbiotic meaning, a good collaborative relationship with one another. And they live inside and on our body, so on our skin cells, right? And, skin is the largest organ. And check this, this is like mind-boggling. We have about 10 times as many microbial cells as we have human cells. So as a human, we're outnumbered 10 to 1 by these microbes. I mean, that's kind of crazy. And there's more diversity in our microbiome than in a rainforest. And we all know, if we've seen even just one National Geographic or show on the rainforest, it's crazy how much diversity there is. And we have that much diversity in our own systems, which is why it's vital to nurture a healthy microbiome, right? Because these organisms impact our human physiology, right? Our function, both in health and in disease. And this biome, this diversity, contributes to the enhancement or the impairment of healthy or unhealthy microbes in the intestines, which may contribute to weight gain, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and other disorders. So if we don't have healthy microbial diversity, then we suffer from weight gain, high cholesterol, a poor metabolism, high blood sugar, and other disorders like inflammation would be another one to consider. So the bacteria in the microbiome help to break down our food, digest it, regulate our immune system, and our immune system is in constant communication with our nervous system and our endocrine system being the system that regulates all hormones in the body, hormonal balance. There's constant communication between all those. And it's actually our microbiome that facilitates that communication. It's kind of a big deal. So our microbiome protects us against bacteria and other diseases, and it allows for the communication in the neurotransmitter network. I already said this, the hormonal signaling. It's actually, our microbiome is starting to be considered like an organ, just like our skin being the largest organ in the body, right? It's also, our gut microbiome is called our second brain because it affects our mood, our happiness, motivation, and contributes to our neurological function, which I have already said. I keep saying that because it's really important to understand that our nervous system is intimately tied to our healthy microbiome. And so if stress or anxiety or worry or just a feeling of a frayed nervous system is something that you're constantly trying to find your way out of, then really your microbiome is something that really needs your attention, right? So, and here's the thing, our microbes in our gut actually produce about 90% of our serotonin, which is our happiness neurotransmitter. When we're in utero, as a fetus inside the uterus, the tissue of the brain and the intestines are the very, very same. They haven't become a brain yet or intestines, but when that time is ready, that tissue, it's all one in the beginning, it splits off and part of that tissue becomes brain and part of it becomes the intestine. So this is how closely tied our gut and our brain are. There's constant communication between the two. Our gut is our second brain, and so it's really important to foster it as much, as important as we treat our brain, right? So we also have this vagus nerve. It's the only nerve that leaves our cranium, right? Leaves our head, drops out in the middle of our body here and innervates our entire core and every organ in our system, right? Lungs, heart, liver, gallbladder, spleen, stomach, intestines, kidney, reproductive organs, adrenals, bladder, all of our organs, right? And when our vagus nerve is, it can easily get like hyper sensitive, if you will, and then it affects every one of our organs. And so our gut bacteria is in constant communication with our brain and our vagus nerve, influencing our behavior, right? I mean, it kind of, if we have a bunch of bad microbes and too little good microbes, then we're going to be up a creek without a paddle, but we can change that. So that's the good news. It almost feels sometimes like there's these microscopic aliens in our system that are taking over our mind and our choices and our behavior. And but the good news is you have a lot of influence over your microbiome, and we're going to talk about that next. So what leading edge research is concluding is that our gut, this is just another way to say it, is the epicenter of health. And actually Chinese medicine has been talking about this being the case for hundreds of years, several thousand years actually. So our gut is the epicenter of our health. So this is why the conversation about what we eat and how much we eat and the quality about what we eat is so important, right? It's not just so that we can maintain a healthy weight. I mean, of course that's part of it, but it's way more than that. And I find that when I understand like the broader scope of things and the layering and the dimensions of things, then it helps me to just kind of get on board with it. So I'm hoping that's true for you too. So you remember I mentioned all of our mucous membranes. So all of our mucous membranes are lined with microbiome, right? So we have our nose, our mouth, our throat, our lungs, our stomach, our reproductive organs. Those mucous membranes must be lined with a lot of healthy microbiome because it's our front line of defense. And ideally, it's the friendly, right? This is why we want to tip our scales, because if we take in something from the outside, like, we just take a breath through our nose and there's all kinds of little particles that we don't even see. And it's this mucous membrane that manages all those particles and doesn't let them get in our body even further. And then our body has to mount an immune response, and it recognizes something that's anti, like if it's a bacteria, not a good one, or a virus. And our body at that front line of defense has to be healthy and strong. Okay, so let's talk about how to create a good microbiome. So these are the three best ways. These are not in order of importance. They're all equally important. So I suggest that, you do them all. And then the three worst things for our microbiome. And this is what I have the show notes for. So if you want them, then, let me know. Comment. The code word is biome, B-I-O-M-E. So the three best are, in no order of importance again, are probiotic supplements. And the reason why those are important is because most of us have not a very healthy microbiome. And a lot of people say, well, I eat yogurt, and that's fabulous. It is, because that is one of the foods that help our biome, the good biome. But it isn't often, for most people, it's not enough. Unless somebody already has a very healthy microbiome, then you can't eat enough yogurt to create the colonies that's required, especially if you've taken antibiotics. Even if you've taken antibiotics in the past, let's just say 8 to 10 years, and you've never taken probiotics since then, your microbiome is struggling to get enough friendly bacteria built up and to colonize all of your mucous membrane layers, right? That takes time. And so we need like probiotics and fermented foods that have friendly bacteria and microbiome in it to feed those earlier front lines, if you will, and then they reproduce, and then we have to have enough to feed them, and then they reproduce, and we have to have enough to feed the grandbabies, and then the grandbabies, and that's what creates a colony. And we need to colonize all of this mucous membrane layer in our body, from nose to reproductive tract. And the vaginal tract is really important for women, as you probably know. So I'm a fan of probiotics in supplement form, and I'm also a fan of taking just a maintenance dose after you've taken a lot of time. It takes 9, 12, 18 months to rebuild these colonies. So we have to sort of have the pedal to the metal with bringing in friendly bacterial biome, right, to rebuild all those colonies. And most people don't know that, or they don't maybe realize how important it is to take the time for it. So that's the first one, is probiotic supplements. The second one is fermented foods. So these would be foods like kefir, yogurt with live cultures, active cultures, pickled vegetables, tempeh, kombucha, kimchi, miso, sauerkraut. All these foods they're teeming with microbes. And this is what we want to bring in and start giving all of our terrain these high levels of microbes. So, and if you don't like, it's good to eat a little bit of all of those friendly fermented foods, but if you don't like some of them, that's okay. Just eat the ones you like, but just try to get as many of them in as you can. And then the third thing is to eat a lot of plants. So when we have friendly microbiome, they like to eat too, and it's actually fiber in the plants that we eat that feeds them, and then they can colonize and reproduce faster. That's the ideal. And so we want, there's so many reasons why eating a lot of plants are healthy. And we're just talking about one little slice of the pie here, which is, increasing our microbiome and cultivating it, if you will. So whether or not you eat animal products that's just a choice that one would make. But eating a lot of plants, 80% of our food should be plant-based, is really going to help your microbiome go a long way. So now let's talk about the three worst things that we can do for our biome. So that these simultaneously feed the bad biome. We don't want that, because that wreaks havoc in our body. That's what creates high blood sugar and inflammation and high cholesterol and all the bad things, right? And then they deprive the good biome. So are you ready? Here they are. The first is sugar. I'm sorry, but it feeds the bad biome, instantly, and they reproduce on sugar. So in part, so that's really important to know. And then processed foods, same idea. The second thing is stress. That just actually takes down our good bacteria. This is all based on that chemistry that we've talked about in previous shows, that when we when we have a stress response, there's just a cascade of chemistry that happens instantly, and that chemistry shuts down all the, like, the good processing and manufacturing in our digestive system. If we are fighting for our life and a stress response signals to our body that we're not safe and we're fighting for our life, then digestion gets shut down, and all the management of healthy terrain is not paid attention to because our system thinks it's fighting for its life, right? So lower or eliminate sugar, eliminate processed foods, please. Eat real food. I mean, that's just so, so important. Eat real food, eat whole food, eat food that has life force to it and color and vitality, because that's what will transform into our life force, color, and vitality, right? And then the third thing is bad fats. So we know the good fats are like olive oil and coconut oil and flaxseed and, good seeds and good nuts and avocado, those kinds of things. Those are just a few. And ghee and butter. The bad fats are vegetable fats, because the way they're processed, they literally, by the time we eat them, even though they start out healthy, by the time we eat them as, like an oil or that kind of thing, they are inflammatory bombs in our body, and that just wreaks havoc on the terrain of our microbiome. So all the vegetable oils like canola and safflower and sunflower, they start, like I said, they start out as good, but the way they're processed, they become very, very toxic to our system, especially when we eat them, over long periods of time. So the problem is most people have a poorly balanced and deficient healthy microbiome. So it's really important to, just pull yourself in by the bootstraps, if you will, and put some attention on this. There's also, you can Google search for home microbiome tests that you can take. And they often include like healthy microbiome diets, but you can also search microbiome diets. We don't have enough time to go into all that in our time together, but certainly it's all searchable and easy to access. So let's move on to digestive enzymes. A lot of people I've had this question for a long time, like, what's the difference between microbiome or probiotics and digestive enzymes? And it's a good question. They kind of get fuzzy and seem like they're the same thing, but they're actually very distinctly different. So now you know what probiotics are: healthy bacteria, healthy, microbiome. Digestive enzymes are very specific. We have lots of digestive enzymes when we're born. And of course, like everything else, as we gather our years, the stores of digestive enzymes can lower. And so what a digestive enzyme does is it breaks down our macronutrients. So our macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And there's specific enzymes for each. There's protease, lipase, amylase. There's other digestive enzymes too, but those are the major ones. And we need them because we can't really do a whole lot with those bigger macronutrients, macro meaning larger. And so the enzymes break them down into smaller building blocks that then our body can use for the myriad of functions that happen in our body all day, every day. We don't even know what's going on. It's crazy how much is going on, right? And so if we can't break our food down, those macronutrients, then it causes a pretty good stagnation in the gut, and we don't have available for our functions and our organ systems and whatnot, available what it needs, right? And so let's talk about what the symptoms are of lack of digestive enzymes. So they may include, like you might feel bloating after eating or excess gas, often with odor. That's like a fermentation of the food because there weren't enough enzymes to break that food down. So it's just kind of sitting there fermenting. Fermenting in the bad way, not the fermented food live culture way. And those are two separate, categories of fermentation, if you will. One might have a little bit of cramping after meals, possibly diarrhea, maybe yellow, greasy stools that float, and then foul-smelling stools. So if any of that is happening on a regular basis for you, then there are two options you have. You can eat more foods with enzymes in them. So you might know that pineapple and papaya have a lot of digestive enzymes in it. Eat those first if you're going to eat them with a meal. And then here's another reason why plants come to our aid, is that raw fruits and vegetables have their own digestive enzymes in them. Unfortunately, when we cook them, it kind of destroys the digestive enzymes. But I'm a fan of both. I eat, I eat all the in every meal. I eat raw and whole, and some cooked food, so that I get all the nutrients, the enzymes and stuff in the raw food to help break down all of it. And then that's just a good balance in my view. And then the fermented foods. Well, let me just back up and just say one last time. Raw whole vegetables and fruit carry enzymes in them, so you want to eat those in every meal. And then fermented foods, we already mentioned all those. It's in your list, like the kimchi and the sauerkraut and the yogurt with live active cultures. Those all carry digestive enzymes too. So you want to eat a lot of that. And then there are digestive enzyme supplements. And it's okay to have to take them when you eat a meal. You would take them with a meal so that you have the enzymes available to break down the food that you're eating. So, consider that if you're having some struggles with the bloating and the symptoms that I just mentioned. So, and a reminder, if you want a list of the 3 best and the 3 worst ways to cultivate your microbiome, then code word biome in the comments, and we will connect with you and get that list to you. So let's recap real quick. We talked about what the microbiome is, why it's important, very important, top ways to support your biome, the 3 worst and the 3 best ways, and then we brought up the rear with the digestive enzymes, right? So let me know what nuggets you got from our time together. Just pop a quick comment in the post, like what popped for you? Did you get an aha? Did you recognize something that is important for you out of this conversation, right? I'd love to hear from you. And I will be back next week, next Wednesday, same time, same place. And next week, we're going to talk about these 2 hormones, leptin and ghrelin. And these are the hormones that they control like the stop and go function of our hunger, and why it matters to digestion, weight, metabolism, and health. It's a really important check and balance system that you might have heard about them, these hormones, leptin and ghrelin, but aren't really sure like how they roll in your body. So we're going to talk about that, break it down, unpack it, so you have a real good idea of what it means and how to foster a healthy relationship in that hormonal signaling. So, as usual, a sacred journey is yours to take, a sacred health journey. And I'm here. It's my absolute blessed purpose to make sure that you don't miss your heart calling you home to health. One step at a time on the path gets you more energy, less pain, less stress and worry, a nutritional balance that you've maybe been trying to meet, and best of all, your birthright of peace and purpose. It's coded in your cells, all without spending too much time, too much money, getting rid of toxic chemicals, and making sure that you cultivate health, because with health, life is beautiful. Without it, it's hard and it sucks. And especially because it's our design to be well, healthy, and whole. Like, since we have access to that, in my view, why not activate it, right? So thank you for being you and for tending to your sacred health. It matters not only to you, of course, that's important, but to your life and to the world. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, be well and be sacred.